Hello everyone, welcome to another video where we will look at a spellbinding game from Emory Tate. There is a lot of attacking play in this one, so get comfortable, grab a snack and enjoy some mesmerizing play from a great attacking player. The game we are looking at today was from the US Masters in Oak Brook 1997. Emory Tate is playing with the white pieces and Leonid Yudasin, a strong Soviet-born, Israeli Grandmaster and trainer, is playing with black. Both players are especially strong. It's also worth bearing in mind that in 1997 it wasn't as easy as it is now to analyze your games. So the unique moves that players come up with should be regarded with high esteem. Emory kicked off with his usual e4 and Yudasin played c5, where we get into an open Sicilian. Tate played his usual knight to f3 and black played pawn to d6. Emory played d4, getting into an open Sicilian, and black captured on d4, followed by white recapturing. The knight came to f6, hitting the e-pawn, and white defended with knight to c3. Black played a typical a6 to stop any b5 ideas, and Emory played his bishop to c4. He loves this so-called Sosin structure in the Sicilian. He has played it in many games. Black pushed their pawn to e6 and white retreated their bishop back to b3. Now black brought their other knight to d7 and white replied with queen to e2. Perhaps preparing to queenside castle or even launch a kind side pawn storm. Black jumped their knight to c5 to attack white's pesky bishop, and now Emory played a very interesting move. g4, launching his pawn forward. Black now operates on the other side of the board with b5, but white continues with g5, hitting the knight on f6, which jumps into d7. Now this is where we see Emory's genius play and vast calculation. He moves his bishop into d5. What a move! This is where the complications start. If pawn takes d5, we get into a crazy position where it's considered ever so slightly better for black. However, remember, this is from an era without strong computers to check everything. With strongest play, white can play knight to c6, hitting the queen. The best move for black is queen to b6. White can take on d5 with a discovered check, forcing knight to e5. White can then play f4, trying to regain the piece. But black can play bishop to g4. After queen to e3, knight to a4, knight takes a4, queen takes e3, bishop takes e3 and knight to f3. The game is slightly better for black. King to f2, pawn takes knight and king to g3 keep the game alive for white. After bishop to h5 and rook to f1, the most likely scenario is black is an exchange up, but white has a pawn for compensation. As can be seen from that variation, is it very complex and only a computer can really navigate through it. If anyone tells you otherwise, they are either a cheat or a liar. If we go back to the game after bishop to d5, we can see why black avoided taking the bishop. Instead they played bishop to b7 to avoid the complications. White captured on b7, the knight recaptured, and Emory played the aggressive a4. Gaining play on both sides of the board and opening up the rook. Black captured and white recaptured. Yudasin then played knight to c5, which protects the pawn and attacks the rook at the same time. White now calmly placed their rook to a3, a really nice square, as we'll soon see why. Black developed their queen to b6. Most likely to stop white from playing an annoying before to kick the knight away. White now castled, black played bishop to e7 and Emory tucked his king in the corner for safety. Black also castled kingside to finish their development. Emory was now ready for his attack. He started with b4. Hitting the knight on c5. Can black just simply take this? Well, if queen takes on b4, Tate had the tricky tactic knight to c6 and all of a sudden white is winning. Once the queen moves, knight takes e7 check will be played. The king has to go to h8 and white can play the amazing knight c to d5. An unreal move. If it's taken, then all of a sudden the rook springs to live with rook to h3. I have no doubt Emory Tate saw this combination. If rook to h3, then white is threatening queen to h5. So g6 has to be played. But now white can play the sneaky queen to f3, pretty much winning the game. The point is, if pawn takes e4, white has the combination of rook takes h7, king takes h7, queen to h3 check, king to g7 and queen to h6 checkmate. So going back to the game after before, black has to be very careful and to be fair plays the best move in knight to a4. Black is now attacking the knight on d4. Black hopes white will simply capture on a4 and they can capture on d4, but Tate had better ideas. He now played knight to f5 hitting the bishop on e7. Black captured on f5 and the point is now white can play knight to d5. The queen has to defend something so drops back to d8. White now has time to simply play pawn takes f5, unleashing the queen to further attack the bishop on e7. Black's best move here is to admit they are worse and play bishop takes g5. After bishop takes g5, queen takes g5, rook to g1, queen to h6 and rook takes a4. It's true black does stand worse, but they at least have some chance of a draw here. In the game though, black continued the complications with rook to e8 to defend the bishop. But now white isn't worried about material and plays queen to h5. The threat is that white intends to swing their rook across the board to h3 to deliver a swift end. Black should now play g6 to be honest and try to trade off material with f takes g6, f takes g6, queen to h3 and knight to b6 followed by queen to e6 check, king to h8, knight takes b6, queen recaptures and queen takes d7, followed by queen takes b4 and rook to e3. Again, this is easy to see with an engine by your side but no so easy when at the board. Instead black now blundered and tried to save their knight with knight a to b6. Tate didn't care as he threatened mate with rook to h3. Black defended with knight to f8, but Tate kept playing excellent move after excellent move. He now pushed his pawn to f6. If black plays g takes f6, white can recapture and after black takes again play rook to g1 check with a winning advantage. After bishop to g7, white can play queen to h6. Black can block with knight to g6, but this loosens h7. Queen takes h7 check will follow, and then once the king goes to f8, white can sacrifice the rook with rook takes g6, pawn takes g6 and rook to f3 check, with mate to follow soon after. So back to the game, black tried to hold on to their own advantage by capturing the knight on d5. Black is placing their hopes on a defense somewhere, but Tate does not relent. He plays the correct pawn takes g7 attacking the knight on f8. The king captures on g7 and Tate gets his last piece into the game with a cute bishop to b2 check. Black retreated back to g8, and Tate opens up his king with a can-opener-like move g6. F takes g6 loses to queen takes d5 check. And h takes g6 loses to queen h8 checkmate. The only move to continue is bishop to f6. Tate now makes it look easy with pawn takes f7 check. The king hides to h8 and here Emory sadly actually missed a sublime finish with queen to g5 threatening mate on g8. It would have been a nice finish with a checkmate in 11 moves. After knight to e6, the queen can go to g6, and after the only move with knight to g5, white can promote to a queen. After queen takes e8, white takes on f6 twice and finishes with rook to g1 and pawn to f3. All black can do is give up their queen to stop the mate. But back in the game, Emory still played a nice rook to g1, forcing black to give up a rook for a bishop. White now played rook to e8, but black has one more trick up their sleeve. He plays knight to f6 forcing white to take on d8 and black takes on d8 too. It looks as though black has 3 pieces for the queen but black's king is in a lot of trouble. Emory keeps up the pressure with queen to h6, possible preparing pawn to c3 to cut away black's bishop. Black plays knight to e4, and white finds a strong move with queen to h4 hitting both the rook and the knight. Black drops his knight back to f6 and white plays the best move with rook to g3, preparing to line up the queen on the g-file. Black plays knight to d7 and white plays queen to g5. After this move black resigned the game as there is no way to stop either queen to g7 or a queen to g8 at the same time. This is a great example of precision attack play from Emory Tate and is rewarded with a victory over a strong Grandmaster. I hope you enjoyed the analysis of this great game. If you did, please leave a like, a comment and subscribe to the channel for more videos. Many thanks to everyone who got this far. Please check out more of my videos for tips and chess analysis.